right. Well, happy Tuesday. Um, I can't believe that it's November. It's just crazy how the time flies, but this is it, right? Every year I get a little older and the time moves a little bit faster. Anyway, I hope everybody's doing well and I know it's a very interesting season. Um oh there it is. Okay. And it's an interesting time of year, and I just hope everybody is doing well. Uh, and I hope you guys have some questions for me. Because I don't really, these things are, I don't necessarily come with an agenda. I just want to make myself available to you. If you have things that are going on and you have any questions, big or small, I am here to answer your questions. Um, I'll give you a little. I think you guys know that I had scheduled a workshop, a video game workshop for this. I think it was for last weekend, which I canceled just due to some personal stuff that was going on that just precluded me from being able uh, to do the workshop. And so I had to pull it, which I'm so sorry about for those of you who were interested and and a few people who had signed up. I'm I am retooling it a little bit to make it, I think, more accessible to people, so that it was initially a 2-day workshop, which is a lot. It's a lot. Two essentially 6-hour days, which is quite a weekend, right? Like it's quite a weekend. And and I think I had a max attendance of 12, working with 12. And so I'm shifting it to just being one day. Um, I'm going to shift it to just being one day and just six participants. So I think it'll be much more manageable for people. It'll be less expensive, absolutely. And I know cost is a really big factor, and so I just think it'll be better all around. And I'm going to offer it in the new year. So I will obviously keep you all posted on that if you're interested in acting for video games. And the same techniques really apply to all the things that we do. Um, it applies to commercials, and it applies to dubbing. It applies to animation. So it's not so specific, right? That you're not going to use the tools um, in other areas of your voiceover world, just so you know. So, let's see. I'm so happy. What a crew we have here. There are 14 of us, and some are off camera, which is totally fine. Totally. I understand that. I hang out on Zooms without my camera on quite a lot, so I understand. Um, anyway, if you have a question, kind of the best way that we can go about this is for you to raise your proverbial hand, which you can do by there's a react button down below when you raise your cursor sort of over the screen. It'll bring up a toolbar, and then there's react. And if you hit on the word react, actually, it'll offer you raise hand. Um, so that's the best way that we can go about it. For those of you, I know someone in the chat just said that they don't have a camera. Oh yeah, Jeff. Uh, so of course, Jeff J. We have a couple. We have a couple Jeffs here. You're absolutely welcome to listen in. And if you have a question, Jeff J, just go ahead and ask it in the chat, and I'll come back and answer it. So, and yes, Jeff Burns, acting for video games when the strike is over, 1,000%. Yes. Um, it's so funny. These are the things, right, that I don't think about. I'm like, well, yeah, I haven't really had any, I haven't really had any video game auditions of late. Is this a good time to offer a video game workshop? Okay, Russia, we've got a question. You just need to turn your mic on. You unmute.
Unmute.
There you
Am I
go.
here? Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
thank you.
yeah,
Two questions,
yeah.
well, maybe even three. Number
Okay.
one, yes, the class you're going to do, it won't be just because I've been in those game classes where everybody's changing their voices and they're being big growly monsters and little tiny pixies. Yours, can it be used just for acting to learn
Yes,
to? Okay, good.
yes.
Um, Number two, I have a friend who is very successful in the business, and you know him, Nick. Nick
Which,
Omana.
oh, yeah, okay. I was going to say,
And he
which
always
Nick?
says,
I know a few Nicks.
I know, sorry. And he says, when he does auditions, he often throws in two versions.
Uh-huh.
When I get an audition from the agent, they're very specific, one take.
Hmm.
Do you suggest being naughty and throwing in the other or
No,
sticking to the rules?
no. If a casting director specifies that they only want one take, you give them one take.
Okay.
1,000%.
Okay.
If it's not specified and it's a, here's my rule. I never I never want to go beyond a minute of a casting director's time. So if it's a 60-second spot, I'm going to do one take, unless they specifically say I want two takes,
Right.
right? And then I'll give two. But if there's no instruction, then um then if it's a 30-second spot, and obviously I'm talking about commercials here. So if it's a 30-second spot, I would send two. As long as I can do two
Oh,
very distinct takes,
oh,
but they must be distinct. You just don't want to do two for the number's sake, right? If I
okay.
if I can give them an option that really sounds distinctly different, then I'll do two takes. Again, if it's not specified how many takes they want.
Okay.
And then if you have a 15 second, I probably wouldn't do more than two unless I could really do three distinct takes, then I might, but they better all be good, like all viable. Otherwise I would just do two on a 15 second. And if it's a 10-second spot or a 5-second spot, I'd kind of hover in the three is what I would do. Um, so but on the outside of that, like I'm never gonna, unless they request, I'm never gonna put more than 60 seconds on the audition. It's just out of respect for the casting director's time. I mean, if we only knew how many hundreds of auditions they're listening to.
So let me ask you something. Do you think they pretty much make up their mind after they've heard a few words,
No.
or do they really listen to
Oh,
the full time?
it depends. Depends upon how compelling your first few words are. I think it is entirely plausible and common for a really good casting director who's very clear about what they're looking for, what they're listening for, for them to be able to listen to 3 seconds and go, that's not the voice. That's not the
Okay.
voice. That's not the voice. So yeah, and I think they take whatever measures they can. First of all, they really want to find the right voice. They want it to be you.
Yeah.
How many times have we heard that? They want it to be you. You could save them from listening to thousands of voices, you know. Um, but if they're clear, if the client has been super clear about what they're after and they're like, yeah, we don't want a lower raspy female voice. Well, so if a lower raspy female voice comes up, it's just going to be like, okay, I have to go to the next one because that's not what they're looking for. So,
Okay.
and it becomes cold and impersonal at that point, and that's why it's really good that we are not privy to all of that because that would suck. But but I think it's both and. I mean, I think it's why we want each of our takes to be compelling. So, but not faux compelling, not like, oh, well, I'll come in higher on this note, so everybody else would be coming in low. It's like that's not it. And the best way that you can make your take distinct is for it to be authentic,
Yeah,
for you to be you, you know. And if you're who they're looking for, you know, you'll move on to the next round, you know. So, um, but did that answer you?
it did.
Yeah.
Can I
Okay.
squeeze one quick
Yeah.
question in, or am I
Absolutely.
hogging everyone's time?
Nobody else has a hand raised.
Okay. When I'm absolutely new, so I'm still in the auditioning a lot. When you
Yes.
get an audition and it says you can send your thing in, your MP, and you can either say LA Studio or you can say Source Connect. Do you think they care at all whether it's that you would go to a studio and does that cost them more money, or they don't care either way?
If they've offered, if in the if in the spec and the direction they say, let us know if you need a studio, then what they're saying is we'll book a studio.
Yeah,
So
they
I
ask you to label it different.
right.
Yeah, Russia Robbins, Source Connect, Russia Robbins, LA Studio. Good.
If they're I think that's a logistics thing
Great.
for them. I think um yeah, I mean, I'm in Nashville, right? And if they're if they're asking for what city you're in, sometimes it's a matter of they want to know what time zone you're in,
True.
right? So that they can organize their sessions accordingly, right? Because they may be hiring people from different parts of the country. And so they want to be able to coordinate as efficiently as they can. But generally speaking, they're very, very clear about whether or not they're even willing to work with somebody with a home studio or whether you must come into a studio. Um, so if they've offered you the choice, it's like, what do you want to do? You know,
Yeah.
do you want to record from home or do you want to drive
No,
two
I'd much,
hours? You know?
I'm new to this. I'd much rather be in a studio with
Yeah,
somebody
yeah.
pressing the buttons. Yeah.
Here's the other thing. I think there is an indication in that, like, if you say studio, if you say LA studio, it's very likely that you may be communicating to them that you don't have a home studio. And
True.
that's something to consider. I think if you have a home studio, that's what you should indicate.
Okay.
Again, I think they're searching for information, right,
Okay.
about your availability.
Okay.
Can you work from home? Then say that.
Okay.
It but and there a- and it isn't a matter of, well, if she says LA studio, then we're not going to book her. Then they would just say that in the audition. They would say, right, we need a home studio or we need for someone to come in. They're not going to sort of make you choose between one thing that they're going to book and the other thing that they're not going to book,
Good.
you know? So,
Thank
yeah.
you.
You're welcome. Lori, Russia, can
Hi,
you lower your
I
hand,
will.
Russia?
I
Okay,
am my
great. Thank
hand.
you. Lori, how are
um,
you?
I'm well, thank you. How are
Good.
you?
I'm all right.
Good,
Keeping it
good,
keeping
good.
it together.
Um, I do have a question, but I want to back up a little bit on the one you just answered.
Okay.
It will say sometimes, ask you where you are and whether you have a home studio, and it might say LA talent should be comfortable coming into a studio,
Yes.
or
Right.
New York talent might. So if
Yes.
I'm in one of those cities, I can make a choice. So thank you for that.
Yeah. That's
I'm
exactly
in
right.
northern I'm in Northern Virginia, and there are studios in Northern Virginia, but DC, I think, is more widely known.
Uh-huh.
So sometimes I will put down that I'm in DC because
Yeah.
if it is logistics, they can easily find one and get me there. Okay, good.
Yes. Yeah.
That's good
That's
to know.
great.
Here's my question.
Okay.
So I have two agents. I think both are physically in LA, though the address for one of them is on the East Coast.
Okay.
Sometimes I will get the same script from
Yes.
both.
Yes.
My question is, am I good to audition for both And if you have more than one, do you send them the same audition that you would have done for the other person? You just send it two places or however many places, or do you do a different one for each agent?
Um, you are not free to submit to both.
Oh,
You
okay.
have to choose. It's going to the same casting director. It's going to the same director. Um,
Ah, okay.
so if you let's say it's from Sound and Fury,
Mm-hmm.
and Sound and Fury sends to everyone. They really cast a wide net. So all you're going to do is put yourself twice in their queue. And you don't want to do that. So this is where communicating with your agents is so important. Like Atlas is my primary agent,
Okay.
right? Um, uh, I have one regional agent and then I have a manager, and I very often get the same copy from them. And
Right.
um, and I will always record with Atlas. And they know, and my other agents know it. They know it. Like what, um, before I went on the roster of the regional one, I said I'm probably not going to be reading very much with you. I'll read the things that only you can provide me, right? And there's plenty, from them. But all the things that I'm going to get also from Atlas, I will read with Atlas. That is my obligation. And is that okay with you? And if not, then I won't, be on your roster. No problem. And so that's where we have to get really clear about our communication, you know.
Okay.
Um, and I've had a couple of instances where, something came in and I waited, and I'm like, okay, I guess I'm not getting this from Atlas. And then I record it, and as soon as I send it in, I get it from Atlas,
That's fine.
It's like, oh, okay. So then what I need to do, and that's happened a couple times with the management company, and I just send them a note and I say, and they are great because they always say, if you get this, from your primary agency, no problem. Read it with them, right? They are very clear about that, which I love and appreciate. And so I just send them a note and I say, I'm so sorry. I need to withdraw the audition that I just sent
Mm,
you. I just got it from Atlas. And so I need to read it with them. And they're like, no problem. Thanks for letting us know. So, um, so again, I don't think we have to be all worried about, um, what do I want to say? Like who's first, who gets priority if we're really clear from the outset, like, and I don't know the circumstance, Lori, under which you have two agents, right? I don't know. For
I
me,
just wasn't
Atlas,
booking. I just wasn't booking with
right?
one, and they're
Sure.
both relatively small. And
Yeah.
wasn't booking, and the other group heard me at what was it, Mavo or something,
Hmm.
and we started talking and wanted to work with me. And I gotten no work from the other one. I've been auditioning, but I
Yeah.
hadn't been booking, so I realized that's
Sure.
not their fault, maybe. So just it'd been a year or two, and I just wasn't
Yeah.
getting any work, anything through them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I
So,
decided to go with the other group.
so I think then if you have to determine who it is that you're going to read with first, right? Who the chosen agency is. And if for you
Okay.
it may be as simple for you as I got it from these agents first. If they're sort of
Hmm.
on an equal playing field for you, like
Hmm.
then it can be, well, I got it from them first. They're turning it in first. So I'm going to read
Hmm.
it with them, right? That it can be as simple as that, as long as those two agents understand that that's what you're doing. And
Okay.
that also is why you can't submit the same thing to both. Then how are you going to contend with that? Who's the booking going to go through if you book it, right? It creates all kinds of problems with who processes the invoice, right? Where does the payment come? How does the commission come out? Then how are you going to give commission to the other person because you turned it in through both
Hmm.
people? So both agents are assuming that they're the ones who are going to book it and they're the ones to whom you're going to pay your commission, right?
Okay.
And that's
Okay.
where it gets really messy. It
Okay.
gets messy and it gets contentious. And so
Okay.
you don't want the complication of contentiousness, because
Great.
that's the kind of thing where they might just both decide to drop you. You know what
Right.
I mean? It's which is
Right.
a bummer.
Well, that's very helpful and very informative. And it clarifies for me to keep working with the group, although I'm not booking through them either, but I am getting some steady auditioning through them. So I'll stay. So that helps me a lot.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know what?
All right.
Booking right now is really hard. It's very
Yeah.
hard to book. Um,
Hmm.
oh, Rick, do you have a minute still? Can you? Okay, I'm coming to you. Um,
All righty.
thank
I
you,
get it.
Lori.
Thank you.
I
Okay.
didn't mean to create urgency
No,
there.
no,
I
no,
just
it's okay. But I wanted to get to you. Hi, my friend.
hi. Okay, so you're doing super granular help. So first of all, I just want to ask, do you do one-on-one like a jumpstart strategy call? Because I'm in the sixth act of my life. And just a tiny story. As an actor in New York City, the very first thing I ever booked was a voiceover.
Yeah,
So I have this voiceover dream that lives in the back of my head.
yeah, yeah.
Right. And I've been following you forever. And we know
If
each other from Cheesecake.
I know.
So
We worked at the Cheesecake Factory
yeah, we
together, you
we were all
guys.
like
Like,
founding members of the
yeah.
Cheesecake. If we'd stayed there, Kay, we would have been billionaires. But
I
it's
know. I know. If I'd have
whatever.
stayed in my apartment in Santa Monica, I would have been
I know,
paid to
right?
leave. And then I would have been a billionaire if I'd
I
just
know.
bought some Cheesecake Factory
I know.
stock at the time.
But
But
the bartender went on to become a million. Anyway, we won't go there.
yes,
So
I
so
know.
do
Ridiculous.
you hire? Can I
Yeah,
hire you? Like,
yeah. Yes, 1,000%. So
and
you
then
just
yeah,
yeah,
I'll find you.
trustandbebrave.com.
Yeah. Okay,
Trustandbebrave.com.
great.
And there's a coaching thing, and then you can pick the thing.
Yeah. Okay,
Like,
great. I
yeah,
just
and
want to
there's
get a sense of this. And can you just, I mean, I love seeing there's what, 17 or 20 people here. Yay to all of you who are doing this. God bless you.
yeah.
Like this is a wild business, as we know. But is it even, I don't need to make a living at it, but is it crazy to think about this at 66 years old? Is it like insane?
No, no, it's
Like I
not
just kind of
insane.
need a little life coaching. No, go for the dream.
Well, yeah, go for the dream, but you know this. It's like
I know.
there are all these external factors,
Yeah.
and what do they say about luck? It's the
Yeah.
confluence of preparedness
Yeah.
and opportunity, right?
Showing
So,
uppness. Right.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
thanks,
yes,
Paul. Thanks for the 75. You're right.
it's it is not an easy business. It's
No.
not easy, and it's not quick, and
Right.
it's expensive to get into unless you are doing something already
Mhm.
where you have a studio space or
Yeah.
a microphone, you know. Uh, that said, you don't have to. y- 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 there's really good, affordable broadcast quality equipment, but there's no um, what do I want to say? There's no beginner gear. It's like
Yeah.
your gear kind of
That's
from the
fair.
start
Right.
needs to be of quality, because if you submit something somewhere and they dig you and they want to hire you and
Mm.
you hit the jackpot that day, if you don't have the microphone, that's going to
Right.
allow that, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like a balance. It's a balance of
Okay, just one particle, well, one granular moment then. So like a closet in my home,
mhm,
can you do can my office turn into it? It's
yes, all the things.
all the things.
All
Yeah.
the
Okay.
things. I have never had a a professionally built studio. I have
Mhm.
never owned a whisper booth. My life has been since 2005 has been a series of closets. And
Well, I used
and
I used to be closeted too. It didn't
yeah,
go well.
it's like we just
That's a different
open the
workshop.
closet door, is what you need to
Oh,
do. But
no problem, honey. I live in Palm Springs where gay men go to die, so we're good.
so good. Well, yeah, we have some useful closets because nobody's in them anymore. So, um, but I've padded my room. I've soundproofed my room,
Yeah.
sound treated my room with my clothes.
Okay.
So and those things have gone on to broadcast television. And, so
Yeah. Okay.
it's
A lot of
the
creative ways to make this happen.
absolutely.
Okay,
And
great.
so I'm,
Yeah.
um, yeah, there are all kinds of ways, all kinds of options. But
Terrific.
yes, find me. And if you can't
Great.
remember Trust and Be Brave, just go to
I
kbest.com
know
and
how
then
to
hit
find you.
coaching,
Okay.
but that's
Terrific.
like the
Terrific.
direct way.
All right.
So I
Off to a
love
speaking
you. It's
engagement.
nice to see you.
Love to see you. Congrats, everybody. Go forth and prosper and speak and change our world. Thanks, everybody.
All right, sweetheart. Ciao. Um, all right. Any more questions? It is really funny. We were in our early 20s when we worked at the Cheesecake Factory in Beverly Hills, which was the original store. Um, and David Overton, whose mother's cheesecake recipe was he opened just a storefront selling cheesecake on Beverly Drive in Beverly Hills, and then they put out a few seats and sold some sandwiches, and then they expanded a little more and started off, and now, oh my goodness, crazy. Anyway, I worked there in that phase of it, which was awesome. It was great. Now it's all corporate. Ah, but it was really fun. Anyway, any more questions, my friends? I know you do. You must. Let me look through here. Let's see. Uh, sometimes Jeff Burns. Jeff, you're always so good with very detailed and pertinent information. Sometimes they do want you in studio if they have a certain mic preference they really want on every actor. That is true. Um, yeah, the U87 is a great mic. Let's see. I don't think. Oh, Jeff, again, I'll ask a simple question. How do you like using that hook filter with your 416? I like it. I don't know. It's this is the hook filter, right? And it kind of slides over the thing. And I like it because I don't know, it's futuristic and I, that's why I like it. But every other filter that I've ever used has been good too. It's a little crisper to me than the sleeve, that comes with the 416. I don't know if that's accurate or not. That just is what it sounds like to me. And I'm no great, um, yeah. What do I know about sound? I am not an engineer. That is for sure. So, I think that was it there. Okay, yeah, that's good. Okay, Sonia.
Oh, okay.
Hi there.
Hi.
So this is more probably your opinion than if you can answer the question or not.
Sure.
I'm I was SAG-AFTRA 100 years ago, and I went on suspension because I didn't think I was gonna do this anymore when
Mhm.
my kids were younger.
Mhm.
And then recently, knowing that I'm on suspension, I'm basically non-union right now. I mean, I
So
thought.
you withdrew. You
Well,
weren't.
it's called suspension, which means I don't want to pay dues right now, but I didn't realize what it was. So I called SAG about 2 months ago and I said, I was a member. I have the letter here, and I went by a different name at the time. And they looked me up and they go, "Oh yeah, here's your new number and your SAG. You can just join tomorrow if you want." However, that being said, I mean, since everything's non-union and I'm studying, I do a lot of audiobooks
Mhm.
lately.
Mhm.
And my coach said, Sean Pratt, he said, don't join so quickly. No, 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 no. Just
Yeah.
hold on a while. So I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I really want to ask my agent because he may say, oh, yeah, yeah. But then I'm competing with the creme de la creme and I'm not really. I don't feel like I'm there yet. So I'm not sure. So just, yeah, your opinion, probably.
Yeah, sure. Union stuff is very complex,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I'm kind of you know, I started most of my career there, nobody did non-union work.
Right.
It was
Yeah.
all union in LA, and,
Yes.
we're
Well, me
earning,
too. We're in the
yeah,
same. Yeah.
yeah. So, we're earning our pension credits and we're earning for health insurance and all those things. And, just a tiny bit of history for everyone. which you may know already, but it was kind of in the 2000s where everything just took a really big shift, and it it coincided with a few things, the commercial strike of 2000, which is kind of a marker for the union. The advent of the internet, like the preponderance of the internet, and then voicebank.net, which ultimately became voices.com. But in the late 90s, early 2000s, voicebank.net became a clearinghouse for copy. And so it changed the nature of the agent buyer relationship. So now all the agents were kind of not developing relationships with their advertising clients, and they were going, and their production house clients, they were just going directly to the clearinghouse, voicebank.net, which opened it up to regional agents everywhere. And, now that the internet was here, it opened everything up to regional talent who had a microphone and a quiet space. And the world shifted. The voiceover world, it just shifted. It was seismic. And so at that time, the I think it's the American Talent Agency, it's the ATA. They never renewed their contract with the union, right? And so even agents that do primarily union work aren't signed to the union. They're all still, after all this time, they're going on a handshake, that for union work, they'll abide by the 10%, commission rule and, all that stuff. So now between 70 and 90% of commercials are non-union. Like, it's just like, is radically different, So, so it's hard for me in a certain way. I do ride the fence on this because I have a pension. I have two pensions. I've had health care my entire career. And so how could I, speak against the union and say, meh, don't join the union, but that's where it leads me because I think I work 10 times as hard as I did 15, 20 years ago. And I make half the money, if that, because I work union. And I have so many people, so many friends who don't live in LA or New York or Chicago, and they work non-union and they make far more money than I do, right? And so they can afford to get their own insurance policies, right? And to put money into a 401k for their retirement. So, so there are benefits and risks to either choice that you make. Some people decide that they're going to go financial core, FI-core status. And I used to be just like, I don't want to say against, but I'd kind of be like, oh, don't cut off your nose to spite your face. But the truth is, if you want union work, but you live in a right to work state, like go FI-core. And the union will try to talk you out of it, and they will shame you for it, and they will tell you you're a bad person and that and that it's just really bad for your career. And, in a certain sense, the union doesn't understand the world of voiceover outside of the two major cities on the coasts. They don't understand it anymore. They don't. It's become a union for elites, not for working stiffs like us, And I will say at the same time, if you live somewhere where union work is plentiful and you have an agent who sends you a lot of union work, you're breathing rarefied air and you might want to take advantage of it. But I don't think that the end goal for everyone is to join the union. If the union was in better shape, if the union understood this field better than it does, I wish that I could say differently. I truly do, because I'm relieved at age 62 that I have pensions. Like I can't even tell you, it's like it's it's a miracle to me, So, and I wish that for everyone, a modicum of security as they get older. So I'm starting to think that, I may be one of the last of a dying breed, you know, of union of of like I say this and I know people don't believe me, but it's true. I am a working class actor. I'm a working class voice actor. I struggle for my jobs. I audition a lot. I I have to compete like everybody else, you know. Um, Rob Paulson, when he would be asked like, what's your favorite job, and he'll say the next one, which is true. It's like, when's my next job? So I'm fortunate to have had the career that I've had and all of that, but I'm still at it, I'm still at it. I'm still trying to make a living at this. And um so in a certain way my experience is everybody's is unique, right? But here I am giving you my perspective when I came from a different era, of voiceover, and I am trying my best to understand the current era that we're in, right? So that I can give people accurate information and a realistic perspective, you know? So I know, Sonia, this is far more than you probably ever wanted, but I think if you have an agent that primarily brings you non-union opportunities, then that's what I would stick with.
Stick with, yeah.
I would. If I were to do it over again, I think that that's what I would do, you know?
Yeah.
Um, but, again, FICOR is an option if you decide that you want to have, if you want opportunities for both.
Well, it sounds even, I asked that question when I was talking to them, and like you said, they make you feel bad. They make you jump through hoops. Oh
Oh
no,
yeah.
you have to apply for that, and you're going to have to do A, B, and C if you want us to approve something like that.
Yeah.
So I'm
You
like,
send them a letter. That's it. There's nothing more. And I'll say that I want to be really clear about this. Like, um, I would even though I'm saying all these things, I would never cross a picket line, right? I'm never gonna, um, I mean, I am union, right? So I'm not, I don't, I don't get, I don't, like my agents aren't sending video game copy to me in the midst of this strike, you know? Um, uh, but I'm not in that regard. That to me is my support of my fellow actors. Like I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to. And even if I was FICOR, even if I was non-union, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it, right? Because we have to we have to support each other in the choices that we make, I think. So I'm never going to do something consciously that's going to undermine um, union rates and the whatever progress, you know, the union makes, whatever progress happens because of a strike. Like I'm not stepping in there if I'm non-union. I'm not doing it. I'm not. That to me is sort of the ultimate opportunistic kind of thing that I would wish to avoid. Oh, we're on strike. Oh, gaming's on strike. So here's my chance, you know. But if we, to step into a production company and say, I'll do it, when the union actors are doing their best to raise rates. And when rates are raised, they're raised for all of us. Right. So I think we have to be super conscious of that if we're deciding that we are, not gonna go the way of the union. you know. The It's just very different in the world where we're not on strike and you've got union production houses and you've got non-union production houses. Which one are you gonna go seek opportunity from? Right? I mean that, and I'm sure that somebody who's far more knowledgeable in union things could just shred every argument and opinion that I am presenting to you now. You know, so it truly is just my opinion, and it's as informed as it is. It's not necessarily more or less. It's just mine, and I right now I just sit in the muck of it, you know, and in the tension of it, and the union is at once is and has been a great thing to me. And in another sense, it has utterly failed all of us, you know. Um, so I hope that was helpful. I can't hear you.
Said, yes, thank you. It was very helpful. I learned a lot.
Okay, good. All right. Thank you for the question. Hank.
Hi, Kay, and
Hi,
everyone.
honey.
Good to see you and
Nice
everyone
to see
else.
you too.
Uh, Staunch union guy.
Yeah.
I feel like trying to avoid the FICOR, but FICOR has ruined the union. That agreement. So I'll leave that at that.
Yeah.
One quick other comment is mid '90s, working at the original Spago. Your man from the Cheesecake Factory came in with his mother and a big private party and gave $100,000 checks to each of those managers. And I looked at my son's mother and said, who was a chef climbing the ladder, all great reviews in LA. And I said, you're in the wrong end of it. So it's the old staple, feed the classes, eat with the masses, feed the masses, eat with the classes. And now my question. So,
So
more,
were you talking about David Overton?
yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So he came in with his mother. I think there were about they must have had maybe 12 stores at that point, 12
Mm-hmm.
because there were about 12 other folks there that were
Yeah.
all managers of their given thing. And then they handed him all those bonus checks. And I was
Yeah.
just
Blown out, right? Yeah.
weeping. Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, I had a session with a video game casting director, and she talked about. So I'm based in San Francisco.
Yes.
Two agencies I was signed with both in the past. I'm looking to get up with them again. But she said I don't go to that agency because that agent will not do the proper cut, and she's union
Mm-hmm.
for me. So that leaves me in a quandary. So can I say to these agents, if they're both interested in working with me, I'm only going to do video games with you, and the other agency, which gets twice the work outside of video games, can I subdivide? Does it sound reasonable to subdivide the duties, or is that not going to work? Both covering the same, both being regional agencies.
It depends upon what your agreement with them is, right?
Okay.
If they say, because some like Atlas will say, nope, you're with us across the board, right? You may go get your regional agents and you can read stuff with those regional agents as long as we don't get it. But we are across the board. So it's everything that's in the contract, right? It's
Right.
commercials, it's even on camera. Like you know, if I told Atlas, like, yeah, I really want to do on-camera commercials, you know, that little box is checked. And so if I want to do that with another agency, I have to go to Atlas first and say, may I, you know, void this part of our contract so that I can do on-camera stuff out of Nashville because that's where I live, you know, and that's where I'm not gonna fly to New York or LA to do on-camera stuff at this point in my life, you know? So it all depends upon the relationship that you have with each of those agencies. So um, I don't know what they are, but just for an example, if you're like right now signed across the board with, say, Stars, right? And you go to Stars and you say, I really only want to do video game auditions with you. That's what I'm interested in. You have to see what they say.
Okay.
It's really that it's that simple, right? Like, um, but to me, there's again, it all really depends upon your communication, with your agents, because just because somebody sends you an audition does not mean you have to read it. It doesn't. I mean, how many auditions have I passed on? Like I look at it and I go, yeah, that doesn't really fit me. So I pass, you know? And so if you just decide, again, as the example, like if if you only want to read video game stuff with stars, well, then only read the video game auditions. If they, but then if they come to you and go, hey, why aren't you turning in your commercial auditions with us? Right? Which I don't know, they may or may not. It's not like my agents don't come to me and go, hey, so in 2024, you turned in like half the auditions. What is up? They didn't say that. I went to them just like 2 weeks ago and I was like, I know that I have not been turning in things and here's my plan for the future. And they're like, yeah, we missed your auditions. But they weren't, you know. So there's that too. It's really about communication, understanding, and what your contract says.
Right, but there's a standard contract means if you sign with someone, you're uh, owed to them. In other words, you wouldn't freelance with another agency even though they didn't get an audition. Signed with someone reads in that.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, I understand.
In
I
other
mean,
words,
it's
do I avoid I'm sorry. Do I avoid signing with either one and say, look, I want to freelance with you and I want to freelance with you? In other words, I'll do everything but video games with you guys and reserve my video games with the other agency because they get, especially this one person who's prominent will go to them and not the other agency.
right. Right. Um, if if you're just talking about you know, carving out your career, as you want it, then yeah, if you're not signed with them,
Right.
then yeah, you can do that. There may be uh, there will always be a consequence to whatever choice you make, right? And so you just have to ask yourself, am I willing to contend with the consequence?
Got it.
Right?
Yeah.
That's all, though. If you're not signed with them, then absolutely. If
Yeah.
you're
Wide
being
open.
if you're being hip pocketed by both of these agencies, but they're sending you stuff, read what you want. Read what you want.
Right.
It's kind of as simple as that. Um, yeah. So I thought you were signed, right? Like you're signed with them.
Well, I was
Yeah.
signed with actually in different periods, both agencies. Now that I'm re-upping my career,
Yeah.
I'm gonna, send them my stuff. And I was just wondering, well, can I avoid signing? They if they're interested in signing me again, just so that I can play both sides of this fence.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah.
I'm trying to game
It's
it out, so to speak, on the
yeah.
video games. Yeah. So
Yeah.
anyway, thank you.
Yeah. I know it's my answer. It was not, I don't think, very helpful at all. But
Yeah, no, it was helpful. I'm just trying to discern, is it viable to actually play both because I felt like I would be losing work by signing with the other agency
right.
exclusively and then not getting those auditions with that uh, CD,
Yeah.
that I'm denying myself work that I really don't want to
Yeah.
deny myself work.
You
So,
know what, Hank? Run the experiment.
okay, thanks. All right.
Run
Thanks
the
for your
experiment,
permission.
get the results that you get, and then reassess.
Great. Yeah.
And
Okay.
I think again, I think as long as you are able to communicate openly, that's what matters, right?
Yeah.
Because if you decide like I'm only going to read this stuff with this agency, and then 1 year down the road you go, this isn't really working out. Are you able then to go to that agency or a particular agent at that agency and go, hey, so I've been doing this and it's not really working. And so I'd like to, rethink how we work together. Are you open to
Awesome.
that?
Yeah.
So I'm just a big fan of communication, as hard as it can be sometimes. And I'm telling you, it's hard. Like, we make agents into these gods in our lives, and they're not, they're not gods. Some of them have attitudes like they are, but they're not, you know, they're working with us. They work for us. They get 10%. We get 90%. That makes us the boss, right? Like, but that doesn't mean that we need to be snarky. It's just we're partners. I mean, I really look at it like we are partners. They want what's best for me because what's best for me is best for them, you know? So I think if we keep that in mind and kind of like I always approach things like if ever I have a request of my agent, I always in that request I say, please let me know what I can do to facilitate this. Like I want to do my part, and if you have ideas and things that I'm not aware of, I welcome your input. I want to know, because I want to work with you. And I think that's the attitude to have. So
Great.
open
Thank
communication.
you very much.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Nice to see you. Any other questions? New questions or questions that stem? Hi, Steve.
Hello, yeah.
Hello, how are you?
Good. Yourself?
Good. It's nice to see your face.
Thank you. I put it in the chat. It was
Oh, okay.
about how important you think having a social media presence is. Um, and I want to put the caveat for obviously for ones that maybe have been in the game longer, it's probably not as important, but or maybe you feel differently about that, but I just
Yeah.
kind of wanted to get your thoughts on that.
I think you want to be found. I think you want to be able to be found. That's the most important thing, unless you're of such a caliber that, you know, Tress McNeil. I don't know if you all know who Tress is, but you should if you don't. She's I don't know, a decade older than I am. Maybe not quite that much, but she's probably the most prolific female voice actor ever. Um, she's all over The Simpsons. She's all over Family Guy. She's all over Disney, and like she's ridiculously talented. And she started in commercials and then did promos and then found her way into animation. And it's ridiculous. Her residuals alone are in the millions every year. You know, Tress does not want to be found, and so she has no social media presence, and so that's the extreme. That's the total extreme. But I think if you are up and coming and or even if you're, you know, old and on your way out to pasture like I am, it's good to be found. So you want
Never, never. Okay, never.
you want to have a
You still have things that you have forgotten that none of us have even started yet. You still have a wealth of information to
thank
share.
you. I
So
appreciate that very much. I joke, but I joke, but I'm also realistic. But thank you. I
well, I never
appreciate
want you to believe any of those jokes though. That's it though.
it. Um, I think again, the most important thing about that is to be found, right? If somebody, is like, I heard this great audition from Steve Ward, but like, I don't have his number. I don't have where I lost the information. Like, can they do a Google search of you and find you on Insta and can they send you, a message? Can you be found? And I think that's probably the most important thing. Um, I think that most people who've hung around me long enough know that I'm not really big on posting a bunch of your work, because even though in most cases it's not intended to be bragging, it comes across that way, and in a certain way, I know we can't presume to know everyone's intentions for why they post things or how they receive things, right? But the practical piece of that is that people who are casting and agents are not on social media to find voice talent. They're not. It might be one in a million, that's scouring the internet to try to find voice talent. But they're not. They're busy casting. That's what they're doing. And they're either busy casting by way of talent agencies, or they're busy casting by way of uh their rosters, they're searching voiceover rosters or what have you, right? So um and here's the exception to that rule, I would say. I'm not saying that you shouldn't post your work ever. You know, um, Sometimes we post our work because we're so proud of the work, because it represents a new genre that we've undertaken. And wow, can't believe I actually booked this thing. And I did that when I booked Star Trek. I was like, I'm a huge Star Trek fan. It was a huge deal to me. And I was pinching myself. It was like, I cannot believe that I booked this role and I'm so grateful. But I had no sense that it was going to bring me more work. That just not at all. It was like for my family and my friends who also love Star Trek, and who, my nephews who are like, they're Star Trek, they're total nerds, right? Like, I can't believe my NK, it's for that, it's for the love of the thing and just the fun of it, right? Bye, Marie. I didn't see you here, but I see you going. um, so um, so I'm not saying you don't ever post your work, but when did I do that? I did that in 2000, 5 years ago. I don't think I've posted anything since then, you know? So, so I think you have to keep it in perspective in terms of having a presence, right? A presence. Um, what was I gonna say? I think it's really great if you had an extraordinary time on a game or a collaborative effort. It was like truly where you got to know the people that you worked with, like, and something gets released, like, go sing the praises of the engineer, post it and go, this is some of the best engineering I've ever, or this is some of the best direction I've ever received from Pierce O'Toole, best director I've ever worked with on a video game. Sing their praises, right? Because they deserve that. And they never get called out, right? They just don't. And so what you end up doing is, yeah, you might get to post a scene that you're in that ended up being a really great scene, but you're not tooting your own horn, right? You're saying, I was directed into this performance by this guy. And like, look out for this guy because he is awesome, right? Like, I love that kind of posting. So when I see those kinds of things, I go, that's an appropriate use of, social media presence. It says a lot more than just look at me, It's like you acknowledge that it's a collaborative endeavor, which it is. Um, you acknowledge the talent of someone else, all those kinds of things. So, and um, and I think also if you're going to have a presence, and this is my opinion, but I think you have to stay out of the fray. Like you have to decide if it's really important to you to express particular beliefs or opinions about things, certainly in a political climate, right? You have to decide whether that freedom to do that, and you are free, 1,000%. You have to decide if that is more important to you than whether or not you alienate half of the buyers, you know? Like, and I've sort of landed in this space of like, why would I do that? I'm happy to work with anybody, truly. Like, what, someone's particular opinion gets really hot every 4 years or so, but the rest of the time we're all just working stiffs. We're all trying to make a living and we're all trying to do the work. So I have made a conscious decision, like I'm not going to do that. And so I have a particular, I have a presence as a coach, but way more. That's my presence, right? I don't have a presence as a voice actor. I don't post my work. I don't, like all that kind of stuff. So so there are all kinds of reasons, and like, um, there are all kinds of ways to be productive in the type of social media presence that you have and all kinds of sort of the realities of it. But ultimately, which I, just right from the start is like, you want to be found, you know.
Thank
Um,
you.
and so if you, let's say you're on Insta or you're on X, or make sure you that they can that they can link to you, right? Like, so on Insta, like have a link tree, right? So they can click on that and then go to your link tree and then go to your demos, right? Like in that way, make yourself not only findable, but like, can they hear you really easily, which is great, you know? So I do think we mistake sometimes presence with putting all our work online and posting all our stuff all the time, and it's really not that. It's can you be found, easily. So
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah, thank you.
I could have probably answered that like a half hour ago, but I talked for 30 minutes about it.
It's the K way. Don't
Anyways,
worry, that's the
I
K
know.
way.
I just go off on like 6 tangents and come back around. So we're at 1 o'clock. We've been here an hour. So any last questions? Any last little things? No? Um, you got, is that you, Russia? Oh, you're applauding me or you're raising your
Well,
hand?
yes, thank you very much. When will you do this again? I like
I
this.
I do it every month.
Marvelous.
I do it the second Tuesday of every month. So
Thank you.
if you're on my mailing list, you will get, yeah, you'll get notice.
Lovely.
Yeah, so it's the
Thank you,
second Tuesday
everybody.
at
It was
noon
lovely.
Central. Yeah, good. Um, Thank you all so much for coming. Like, you can't have an ask me anything if y'all don't show up to ask things. So I really appreciate you being here and your actually your vulnerability in asking questions, because sometimes these are hard things to answer. And again, I just want to say to you that these are my opinions and I know they're complex, and I know the whole union thing is a very complex issue. And honestly, I respect everybody's perspective on it, and it's a rough one to grapple with. So anyway, I appreciate your indulgence, and I'll see you in a month, if not before. Yeah, so that's going to be December. Ooh, good Lord. Okay.
Thank
Have a
you.
great month, and I'll see you out there, as they say in Star Trek land. See you out there. Mwah.